everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Track to Noise podcast. On today's show, myself and Rob Binns will be looking back at Town's 2-0 victory this past Tuesday night against Bristol City. Rob, that was quite a comfortable performance, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good. It was a lot more controlled than some of the games we've got used to seeing in the early stages of the season, definitely. But we seem to be just living off a good run of momentum at the moment. So was that 5 wins in a row, all competitions now?
Yep.
So 4 in a row in the league. We just seem to have hit that point where we're almost just sort of steamrolling through games. We haven't really looked too phased, even like Coventry away. We've sort of come through that fairly comfortably, apart from like 10-minute spells at the start of the second half of games is normally the only point we're looking like we're showing any sort of weakness. Other than that, we'd say we're riding a wave at the moment, and long may it continue.
We talked about this on Monday with Richard and yourself, the sort of turn of form, especially from December onwards, that we've seen. It obviously continued in this game as well. But what do you attribute to this run? Because as I said, I said to you guys in our podcast chat post match that I feel like if this was a game, if it's placed in October time, you remember we had that sort of Watford game, Wrexham, a few games like that where I feel this happened then. This may have been a banana skin. We played them away and we weren't that great. Obviously, away is a slightly different ball game sometimes. But yeah, I feel like at the moment we're just really, really clicking all cylinders, aren't we? And it's a fantastic performance. Like, what do you attribute that to? I mean, just coming together and all that sort of stuff, or just right time sort of thing?
Yeah, it's the depth, really, isn't it? The point gets made every time we're on TV. It's one of the first things they bring up. But we questioned a lot of the rotation players earlier in the year, haven't we? Saying that everyone goes on about the depth on paper Ipswich have got, but a lot of them aren't actually performing. But those players are now actually performing, and we can make sort of say, was it 4 changes or something today? But you predict the changes that are going to happen in this game, and it doesn't change the quality. Well, we knew exactly what was going to happen. We knew it was going to be one of the midfielders was going to change. We knew the wing options were going to change. We expected that Hurst wouldn't have two starts in him in a week, having just come back. But it's almost like it doesn't matter who we play at the moment. Everybody's sort of hitting that form, and like you said, we made the point at the weekend, didn't we? The squad is gelled together now. We're playing. These players have got used to each other now after these sort of relationships that we were struggling to find in the early weeks when we were scraping our way through games. That they're there now, and we're playing some lovely football as a result of it. And like I say, it's everybody now. It's that depth that everybody's been shouting about all season, both externally as well as internally. We questioned it at times, but it's finally there now, and so there's barely anybody in the squad currently that you wouldn't back to come on and do a solid job, however long they're on the pitch for.
Yeah, everyone's really sort of holding their own now, aren't they? Like, as you said, there was some like weak spots, and Kiyuste or Taylor pivot wise, whoever joins Matasiwa, sometimes like who's it going to be, and has one kind of fallen off. But really, whoever starts seems to now find their feet, and that back four, as we said in this past week, are just so solid now. I've looked since that's another clean sheet to add to the tally already this season. And it's just looking a lot better. As you said, there's a few changes in the squad. With it being a Tuesday night, you are going to get a few changes. And I think, Rob, you predicted the changes. I asked you on the end of Monday's show saying, who do you reckon will come in? Obviously, Philigine's unfortunate knock apparently is out till March now. It's not a conclusive report, but I've seen people online saying that could be the case. But we saw, usual back four on Walton and goal, and then Q-Stay, as I said, coming in for Jack Taylor. Burns on the right, his first league start, I believe. Start against Blackpool, first league start since his injury last year. Nunes in the 10. Clarke on the left, very much having to maybe do a bit more double duty now with Philogene up for a wee bit. And then even as on up top there. We'll get into the game as we go on, Rob, and obviously individual moments highlighted throughout the game, but any sort of standouts from you in the game? Obviously we did have a win, Jack Clarke, we'll get to his goals and stuff, but just big players, big moments from it. What sort of stood out to you as we look back at this game?
I think both the wingers and Azon as well, really, or even say Nunez is always brilliant, isn't he? Really, but the attacking four were just set the standard of the game, didn't they? But so Burns, we knew we weren't going to get more than about 60 minutes out of him. His minutes are going to be managed. That's the way it's going to be for the rest of the season. If he starts a game, he will come off fairly early in the second half just to make sure he doesn't aggravate anything. But I thought when he was on the pitch, I thought he was really bright. Obviously, he played a part in the build-up. in many of the good opportunities we made over the course of the first half, especially. Just again, same as when he comes off the bench, you wouldn't really know he'd missed a year, would you? That he's not lost that sharpness, which he could have easily. Like, even a player the level of Rodri hasn't looked the same after coming back from the same injury. So for Burns to still look as sharp as he does and really getting involved is credit to the sort of work he's put in through his rehab and everything to get him on there. And then obviously Clarke, 2 really well taken goals and so into double figures now, isn't he? So there's not really that worry that with Philogene being out, like I say, if it is going to be until March now, we were obviously joking when we heard the news earlier that it's all right, all the games are away, you won't miss Philogene anyway. But actually, probably now you watch this Clarke performance and think, yeah, maybe we won't miss him because the first goal was a very Philogene sort of goal, especially if they being at Portman Road as well. Is that I don't think that obviously the fact that maybe the lack of rotation there now because it's nice to chop and change between the two in a game or in between games when you got quick turnarounds and everything. But in terms of quality, you're certainly not going to lack that with Clarke coming in instead of Philogene.
Yeah, definitely. And he, as you said, that we'll get into the game though. So that first goal, 8 minutes in, really, really well taken across the face. Just confidently took it on his stride. Good pass, a pass from Cusay to lead up to the goal as well, and then just across the face, as you said, so reminiscent of many goals that Philogene's had, especially in recent weeks. At that point in the game as well, and I think that's something we talk about. Obviously, the defense sort of coming in stride recently. I think it's 6 clean sheets in the last 10 games as well, which is brilliant considering the start of the season we had where we were struggling to keep a clean sheet for a long time, but. Moving forward as well, I think we also struggled in many games to start the season to score early, and a side most likely come to Portman Road playing a low block, no matter what position they are in the league. But that game plan has to go out the window when you score an early goal, and I think we've done that really well in recent games to sort of nullify that low block and just be really front facing and having a good go. And it's good to see us sort of scoring early and sort of killing that potential upset early on, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. We said it at the weekend, didn't we? With obviously, and that we got a bit of a helping hand against Blackburn to get that for us. But I say, how teams set up. I mean, we saw that when we saw the team sheet for Bristol City come through. That they were going to sit with what was blatantly a 5 out of possession, with trying to sit in, and as it is the template for it to come to Portman Road because teams know how strong Ipswich are at home, so they turn up to try and stay solid at the back and keep themselves in the game because they know that's their best chance of going to get something. Obviously, the Charlton set the blueprint on a day. Obviously, we were shocking on the day, but that was the template that obviously teams are trying to copy. And the easiest way to ruin that is to score early, which is obviously easier said than done. But we're making a good habit at the moment of getting those early goals, and like I say, it then forces teams to play their hand earlier than they want to. Because then suddenly they're chasing the game for 80 minutes rather than having something to protect. And really nice goal as well.
Yeah,
so we've seen it, like I say, a Philogene-esque goal. We know those spaces open up, and that's because of Davis. We know how attacking he gets, and we didn't see it as much last year, but certainly last season in the Championship, and loads of times this year. The reason there's that space for our left winger to cut inside and work a chance for themselves is because there's always Davis bombing up the wing, which naturally the defender has a choice to make. He either has to leave Davis to run and row the potential of a cross, or he sort of has to go with him, which then opens up half a yard, and you got to rely on one of your teammates to get across, which normally there's not enough time to react. And like I say, there's not a coincidence that we've scored a goal from this sort of position so many times this season. We know exactly what we're doing. It's one of them that teams know we're going to do it, but it's harder to stop it than even when you know it's coming. And luckily, when you got a player the quality of Clarke and Philogene, they put it in the back of the net from those positions quite often.
Yeah, it's like, I think some people are still crying out for a number 9 to an extent, but that left side is so stacked. It's probably the most stacked part on that position than any team in the league, isn't it? There's no comparison really, and they're both really, really. Obviously, they came in summer for Clarke last year and January for Philogene, both in the Prem. New team, it's difficult to adjust so quickly, but this season, with a pre-season under their belt and being a bit more familiar with their surroundings, they've both been fantastic this season, whether called upon from the bench or starting. And it's really, really good to see when one's out, the other one can be called upon and relied upon. It's not a big worry when one of them is gone. Hopefully, like I said, Philogene will be back to full fitness soon, help the team out as we get towards the end of the season. But moving on into the game there, Rob, we did see a bit of a scary moment just around the 20th minute mark or so. There's a bit of playing around the back from Christian Walton and Cedric Keeper, sort of on the edge of the box. Scott Twine, I think, got onto it for Bristol City, and then I think it was Emil Rees had a shot which Walton did. I think pulled off a really, really good save and sort of diverted it to go out from. I think it was a corner or throw, I'm not sure, but a bit of a scary moment there. But our defence, despite the fact having a few shaky moments, can sort of get back into gear and sort things out for us. I thought it was a great save from Walton and O'Shea getting the right position as well. I mean, O'Shea, to be fair, we've not talked about him much recently. Like, I know we talked about Walton kind of earning that spot now after Palmer's injury, but O'Shea, I mean, he's emerging more as a leader, I think, and he's a key part in why defence is playing so well, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he sort of epitomises the turnaround we've seen defensively over the last while, because I know he's somebody that we have handed a fair bit of criticism out to, obviously quite regularly last season, and then over the course of the early stages of this year as well. He sort of was somebody that wouldn't always get singled out by a lot of other people, but certainly I know it almost become a bit of a thing for us on this podcast that we'd sort of feel like we're calling out something O'Shea done every week in the early stages and questioning why we didn't see Kipre and Greaves together. But he has just, let's say, he has been epitomised the change we've seen at the back. He just looks so solid every single week now. He's just he hasn't had a bad game for a long time now, but he's just regularly in the positions he needs to be in, a threat in an attacking sense as well from set pieces. It'd be nice if he scored them a bit more often, but he gets himself in the sort of positions that, so like the Blackburn one at the weekend, he's in there causing a problem, which stops Blackburn being able to clear it, and Taylor stabs it home in the end. But he's becoming the sort of key player that we thought he'd be when he signed, and so there's a reason why he was given he was trusted with the armband when Morsy left in the summer. And we're seeing that now, I think, in terms of, like you said, in the leadership as well, and his performances, that he's been fantastic for quite a lengthy amount of time now. And like you say, so the defence generally has improved a lot, and he's been a big part of that.
Absolutely. And speaking of Sam Morsy, he was on the bench in this game up until the 27th minute, when Zach Viner for Bristol City unfortunately came off with an injury after picking up a knock. And as we all predicted, a lovely reception for Sam Morsy back at Portman Road, the first time since leaving the club this past summer. Did have an effort a few moments after coming on. Kind of went a bit wayward and got a few sort of ironic cheers. He did get a bit involved physically with I think Furlong, and it kind of got up nose to nose in the latter stages of the game. Wasn't able to really impact the game that much. I mean, we were very good, I think, in the middle of the park and defensively to kind of nullify him and his teammates. But good to see him back, as we said on Monday's show, and he didn't cause much of a threat, which is good. He just came in, nice little applause, and see you later, I guess.
Yeah, you say we predicted he'd get a good reception because we knew he would. We also predicted he'd get booked, and he did.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what you'd expect. Thought that I didn't think he'd be able to resist having a dig at Nunes. Obviously, he's moved on, and before Nunes had come in, so he's not seen him as an Ipswich player. He's obviously still thinks of him as a Norwich player in his head. I reckon that he's. Yeah. I thought they were going to have a bit of a tussle at some point, and he did get booked for hauling him to the floor in the end. We knew that was coming, didn't we? He always had to, didn't he? He had to get booked at Portman Road again.
Has to be done. We did mention at the top of the show there as well, just some, as you said, the wingers had a good game, but we've also up front of, even Azon, he didn't score in this game, but I thought getting around and sort of making a nuisance of himself to defenders, and obviously was key in the second goal later on, which we'll get to. But he had a really good chance shortly after, around the half-hour mark, I think, where he had a shot just sort of slightly blazed. I think it skimmed the crossbar. Would have been a really, really well-taken goal if that managed to go in. Obviously, he hasn't really managed to find the back of the net too much this season. But, obviously we'd like to see him score more goals, but he's keen to make an effort. He seems to have a few more yards of pace in him now as well as the season's gone on, and hopefully that can lead to more goals. But yeah, good performance from Azon, wasn't it? Getting around there and stuff.
Yeah, I thought he played really well. I say very unlucky with that chance in the first half to not score. So you suppose you could criticise him for maybe because he had the whole goal to aim for, really. But I think if I'm in his situation, I'm just thinking the position where the goalkeeper is and where the ball drops to, anywhere on target, you just kind of assume it's going to end up in the back of the net. And it is a fantastic save from Vitek to get back and turn it over the bar. I think it is just that really. I think sometimes you just maybe like the cynics will say in a lot of the goal to aim at to put it in the net, but sometimes you do have to say when it is just a fantastic bit of goalkeeping, is that he'd have been thinking anywhere on target's a goal, and he's clawed it back. And so I think for me, he's just really unlucky not to get on the score sheet there because he does need some more goals in his game. That I was saying, I thought he played really well. I couldn't fault much of his game really. If like you say the build up to the second goal, he done very well. He got himself about. He got his good areas on the pitch, but that's what we were chatting about it before we started recording, and it's almost like we've kind of got used to that in a way, haven't we? Where we feel like we praise our strikers for having a good game, but then they're not scoring, and we are sort of a bit over reliant on that left wing position again. Like today, we've played some really good stuff, and it's 2 goals from the left wing position that have won the game again. I do feel like we still are in need of a striker before the end of January because. Again, I can't fault the performance, but he's still a striker that's only got a couple of goals to his name. And so Hurst, again, has a lot of games like this where he plays well and brings other people into the game, but ultimately he's a number 9 with 5 or 6 goals. And we do need to up it from that position, really.
Yeah, definitely. You look at, I think a lot of polls online and just sort of the consensus amongst Town fans, and I agree with you, I share it as well. I think a number 9 is someone needs to bring in this window, whether it's an experienced head just to sort of grab a few goals and maybe just sort of be a bit of a learning tree for the other guys to sit under just to move forward a bit as we move on. Because I think we've obviously scored a fair few goals this season, racked them up as the weeks have gone on, but those guys aren't contributing as much as they should, because if they do, should be an open shut case with promotion, hopefully. But yeah, I agree. Good performance from Azon, but maybe deserve back of net in a few more games for this season. We'll take our first break now. Town went into the first half 1-0 up. When we come back, we'll look back at the second half, as well as highlight some key individuals from the game and look ahead to this weekend's game against Sheffield United. So we'll see you guys in a sec. Welcome back to part 2 of Track to Noise. Myself and Rob looking back on Town's 2-0 victory this past Tuesday against Bristol City. Coming out into the second half there, Rob, as well, can be a bit of a nervy start to second half when, the opposition's going to look to have a bit of a team talk and a rest and try and get back in it. But really, there was a few opportunities from Bristol to to equalise, but I think our defence made a good attempt at blocking them. But 10 minutes into the second half, made it 2-0. And kind of, you feel at that point in the game, to an extent, was an open shut case with the brilliant performance from the defence as well. But a really well bit of play from, we talked about him before, break there, but even Azon with really well assists, kind of seizing it on the edge of the box and sort of a cut back and playing across the face. And, had a lot of space, but first time is always hard to net it in. But a really good goal from Jack Clarke and a brace for him. We talked a lot about him top of the show now. But yeah, brilliant performance from him again, wasn't it? And kind of sealed what you would have thought would be the victory there.
Yeah, a good time to score again. We say obviously we spoke about scoring early in these games to sort of upset the game plan, but I sort of hinted at it earlier, but I think those sort of first 10, 15 minutes of the second half is where we're weakest in games, I think, at the moment. And that's been quite picky and harsh because the all-round performances have been very good recently, but I think that's sort of the spell, like you said, that managers get the teams in at half-time if say what's normally been quite assured first 45-minute performances from Town in recent weeks, and obviously the opposition get in and they work something out at half-time, how they can tweak things and fare better, and we seem to be a bit slow to adapt to that we sort of seem to drop in. I think Bristol City were having their best spell of the game before we went on the break and scored in the end, so that's my one sort of thing I've spotted outside, in and amongst all the good performances recently. I feel like we tend to start the second half a bit slowly and almost invite teams back into games. But in this case, we've sort of dealt with that without them really offering any real threat, despite looking a bit better and seeing more of the ball. And we've gone up the other end and scored a really nice goal. And I say really good work from Adon in the build-up. Good finish from Clarke as well. Just stuck it right in the corner, made sure the keeper had no chance, and playing with confidence, isn't he? And we know he can finish. I know he had a few penalties in there, but they double-figure goals now. I think he's got the second best minutes per goal in the Championship now out of the teams
a lot of me
Out
off
of
the
the
bench, you'd
players who,
expect, wouldn't you? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. So I don't know. Out of all the players who've scored a few goals, anyway, I'm sure there's probably people that have scored 2 or 3 that
Hmm.
have a much better record. But I'm pretty sure it's only Ellis Sims who beats him out of the players who scored a decent amount of goals this year, and because he makes an impact. So he takes his chances when he starts, and he offers a threat off the bench as well. And so you can see he's finishing. He was always one. Same with Philogene, really. That we sort of said a lot towards the back end of last season and the early and over the summer that we felt there was a lot of players in our squad who almost needed to drop back down to the Championship, and it felt like the Premier League had come too early for them. When you felt that they needed a year like this for confidence and build themselves back up, and hopefully we go back up and we see what they're like next year. And both Clarke and Philogene have done that. Really, they're having really strong seasons and scoring some really good goals. And like I say, the finish was superb for the second one. And like I say, I wasn't worried because, like I said, there wasn't any real threat towards goal, despite Bristol City looking a bit better in the game. But we were starting to give up a bit more of the ball, and they were growing into it. So a great time to go and score. And like you say, at 2-0, that they're struggling in front of goal at the moment since they thrashed Watford in the cup, and then haven't scored for 2 or 3 games. So you'd really struggle to see them scoring through any team. You struggle to see scoring 3 at Portman Road, but especially the way they've been in front of goal recently, you sort of felt like 2 was enough, and we were going to see it out from there. And it's pretty much what we did. Really, we're not the team we once were, where the will outscore you team who always looked like they were going to give a goal away, but always looked like the scoring. We're boring's the wrong word. We are just that boring team who gets the results done now. Really, aren't we? Like we just look fairly comfortable week in, week out, no matter who we're playing. We've lost the sort of entertainment value, but we're a much better team because of it.
I think, yeah, as you said, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's like we've had to learn to be that team, really. Coming in, into really apart from the League One promotion season, past 2 seasons before this one, we've never been that side where you're expected to win like every game, and you are that sort of, everyone looks up at you as like we know we're going to come and play them, most likely not really touch the ball for the most part. So having to learn to be that team where a lot of players on this side have never really been in a squad like that, I think there's a learning curve for them as well. But you sort of say, as the seasons progress, we are becoming that team. But yeah, as you said, it's not the flashiest of football. I think there's certainly, the quality of football these past few weeks, and the results are proven to be the case. Like the quality is far greater than what it was, like as I said, in like October time, where it was just you were drawing against teams we really should have been getting all 3 points against. Where you're kind of coming into games now where it's just like, it just seems like beyond a doubt we're going to get a victory, which is like, I've been going to a lot of games this season where you're not going to expect to win every game, but like you go into most games now where you just kind of think we're going to get something out of it because everyone's just on such top form now, and it's brilliant to see. I mean, speaking of form as well, you had like players coming off as well, like substitute wise. I said it on Monday's show again. He came off around the hour mark. I think we were saying it's going to be quite rare Wes Burns going to get a full 90 minutes this season, given the extent of his injury and his comeback only being quite recently. But another great performance from him. Like one of the reasons he's starting, I think, so soon, and with McAteer coming on from him, who's been in the side all season, is those sort of just bursting runs he makes. Like, and it's just something you watch. Like, that's something we've been missing. Just the distribution across the field. He's just so key. And I forgot. I saw some people online saying I kind of forgot how good he was because it's been such a long time. We've seen him play for a side who's expected, of course, in the Prem. We weren't really on the front foot so much, and he hasn't been around the squad for a long time in a team that's going to be winning matches. But he's already like just come back in and just got it, hasn't he? And just he knows the mission statement, knows what he has to do, and he's already such a key part. He's a key part of the team anyway, but just so good to have him back, isn't it? I know we've talked about him a lot already, but I just like talking about Wes Burns because he's so class.
It's the experience that different that you notice because obviously he's been out for a while, and even before he got the big injury in the Premier League, he had 2 or 3 little knocks that sort of always stopped him from getting consistent football. He was injured at the start of the year, weren't he? And then he sort of every time he come back, he'd sort of play a couple of games and aggravate something. He never really got a sustained run to prove himself. And then obviously he got the big injury that's kept him out for nearly a year. But he is a very good player, obviously. He's seen that already, but it's the experience that he offers on that right hand side because that's probably the one position. He still would say it's Egley over anybody at the moment, but that's
Yeah,
sort of the
slightly.
one place that's not nailed down for me when we're talking about McKenna knowing his best 11. But the big difference between Burns and the other two options there is, like I say, is the experience. He's been there, he's done it obviously with Ipswich, and also before that, he's played a lot of football in the Football League. He knows his game. We know his game. Whereas obviously McAteer has struggled to adapt even before Town signed him. He'd only had 1 year in the Championship playing regularly with Leicester and 1 year playing semi-regularly in the Premier League. He's still very young, not had too much football in his career. And obviously Egley's come over and he's learning English football for the first time. So you do see that experience there with Burns, which our other two options we've been rotating through down the right hand side. Neither of those have that. And I think that does make the difference, really. And I think, again, we just talk about knowing the game. I think he knows how McKenna wants to play, doesn't he? We say we almost about the number 10 role that prior to Nunez hitting form in sort of whenever it was, September, October time, that we felt like we were struggling to replace Chaplin, like even last year. We looked better when Chaplin played over when Amari played sometimes. That we sometimes do seem to be missing these players that sort of know the prime McKenna ball, if you want to put it that way. And I think, I don't know, we just look a bit more assured when Burns is playing, but obviously you're not going to get 90 minutes out of him. So it helps that we do have a lot of other options that we can work between as and when we need to make sure we manage his minutes and keep him fit for as long as possible.
Absolutely. Speaking of keeping fit as well, there was a bit of a scare in the 72nd minute mark as well before he was going to get subbed off anyway, but it looks things for Sam Schmodix. But Marcelo Nunes picked up a bit of a knock. Like I said, around the 70th minute mark, hobbled off slightly there. The training staff, the 10 role, apart from him, you feel like most positions, we have kind of got a player to come on for someone each time, whether, their form's suggestive of earning that position. But the 10's a bit flaky, I feel, without Nunes there. And I'm a bit worried if he is out. But obviously, we don't know if it's a long-termish injury or if it missed Sheffield on the weekend. But just again, devil's advocate, if he is to be out for a wee while, that's a bit scary, isn't it? But hopefully he'll be all right.
Yeah, again, it's another position we spoke about at the weekend, isn't it? We feel like that be where you're looking in January, you think, wouldn't you? Somebody else, like either an out-and-out striker to allow a lot of Akpom to go further back and Schmodix in that position, or another number 10 to come in, or almost like another hybrid player who could do a bit of both. They're the sort of two positions you'd look at the moment and kind of think that where we'd be looking at. I mean, interestingly enough, playing for the other team today, Mehmeti is somebody who
I was about to
that links going in.
Yeah,
obviously, I know he's primarily off the left, but he can play in the 10. I'm pretty sure from the brief bit of research I've done after seeing the links this afternoon. I thought I'd wait to watch him myself before I decide anything properly.
I was about to ask you after the game recap, but he was there. He did start against us, but thoughts on that? 8 goals, 6 assists for season, pretty good numbers.
Yeah, he's had a good season. Yeah, he's a good player. Yeah. His contract's up at the end of the season, I think. So I wonder whether we might try and wait and hope rather than pay for him. But then obviously you risk somebody else coming in if you do that. I don't know whether it will be this window or not. But yeah, he's a strong player. So they have a pretty good talent ground, Bristol City, for when their players move on and climb a bit higher up in the system. They do tend to go quite far. I mean, Semenyo being the obvious example recently. Not saying he'll get to the same level as that, but you never know. But I think he's fairly. He can sort of jump between the different positions. And so in our setup, the 3 behind the striker, I feel like he could probably the left would be his primary, but we kind of got Philogene and Clarke there, so he can do a job in the other 2 roles. So I think he'd be a good option definitely to. And I say that he's having a good year. He's got good numbers. So in a team that is very hot and cold, and when they're scoring goals and when they're not, and him and Scott Twine are very key to the way they play. So if he can have that same sort of importance, certainly I just don't know whether it's going to be January or not. Is from what I'm gathering that if his contract's up, depends what they're going to ask for fee wise, because you could get them on a free in 6 months as long as you beat everybody else there. But if we get promoted, we probably would be front of that queue anyway. So I guess we'll see. But I'd certainly welcome it as an addition in January.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, he's versatile in the middle and the left, which is quite key. So if he does come out, that'd be really, really helpful as well. But yeah, that kind of wraps up the game there, really. 2-0. Town now sit second in the league. Obviously, at time recording, Middlesbrough have not yet played their Wednesday night fixture, which obviously they could get back in second. But we have got our game in hand, because currently right now we're 8 points behind Coventry, who did win this evening as well. But, that gap is getting smaller by the weeks as we continue to sort of plod along and hopefully continue to get more permanent and more solidified spot in the top two as the season continues. But really, really good stuff from Town as the weeks have gone on. Still maintain at 100% start to 2026 in all competitions. Look ahead slightly now, Rob, just to this weekend. Sheffield United, it's, I think, our next 6 games, or let me get this right. I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you include the FA Cup, 5, 6, 7 of our 8 next games are, or give or take, are away from home. Key part of the season is going to be, we've obviously not, as we had a good start season away from home and compared to our home form, but away is always harder, isn't it? This is going to be a really, really key month for the side, and if you can come out of this with a decent amount of wins, you'd like to think we're in good stead moving into March. But it's going to be Sheffield United, obviously, have sort of turned the season around ever so slightly. I mean, obviously, there's still only a few spots above the relegation zone, but compared to when we played them earlier in the season, with it being our first win, I think it was 5-0, wasn't it? But be a harder game this time against the Blades when we go up to their place this weekend.
Yeah, again, they're quite a hot and cold team, aren't they? Obviously, they started the season horrifically. They tried to do some sort of experiment with Ruben Sellers in, didn't they? I didn't expect it to go as badly as it did, but I couldn't really understand everybody backing them to go up with Sellers in charge. I just didn't see it. And ended up going back to Wilder. But they're looking a lot stronger now, particularly at home. And it will be a tough game. But as will this whole run now, like the travel, having an extra element in there as well. Like I say, to playing one game at home in like 6 weeks or something like that, isn't it? It's right to the end of February,
give or take. Yeah,
it's going to be tough. And we spoke about depth at the top of the show, didn't we? That we sort of put the depth and how many players we have on a good run of form at the moment to the reason why these games are looking a bit more comfortable, and we're riding a bit of momentum as we climb the table, and that's going to need to carry on. We're going to need everybody playing well, because there's going to need to be changes, and you can quite easily start dropping points when you factor in the travel. I mean, having Portsmouth in there is really not ideal. No. I think as well that
game in hand's good sometimes, but I would have rather played it, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think that being moved to Tuesday night, so then knowing that you've then got, I think we are at home. I think it is the Tuesday after we're at home on the Saturday, which is the best week we could have had it in, really. But going all the way down to Portsmouth on a Tuesday night, getting back early hours of a Wednesday morning, and then getting 2 days on the training pitch, and then probably Friday you're travelling up to wherever we are that weekend. So that's not. Yeah. Like it is. I mean, look at Bristol City this week. I mean, they've had to go to Oxford on Tuesday night, and then Ipswich is very out of the way for pretty much every other team in the league apart from Norwich. There's a lot of travel for them, and they've struggled in both games. It does play a big factor, and I think we've been how we deal. I think we're good enough to deal with it. I think the squad, like we say, the depth is there. Everybody's playing well, but I'll be surprised if we win every single game the way we have been at the moment. I think there will be points dropped in this run of 6 or 7 games. But I think we're probably. I think as long as we're still in a strong position when we come out of it, and then we'll sort of know by the time it'll be the end of February by the time we get out of this run, won't it? So, you start to sort of get the idea of how the table shapes up properly by then. As much as the Championship can twist and turn, I think by the time we end this run of away games, so we're still in and around the automatics, I think you start to be quite confident there that'll be where we finish.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's the case. It's going to be a really, really key month, as I said, in February before we get to the latter stages of the season. But that's going to do it for today's show, Rob. Thank you for joining me as we look back on Town's win against Bristol. we'll be back next Monday to look back at Town's game against Sheffield United. Whilst you're here, if you want to head over to our socials or give us a review wherever you get your podcast from, we really do appreciate that. Yep, enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll see you next Monday.